I've been introduced by Paul, thanks very much. My name is Jimmy O-Donnell. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Nice to see you. Nice. Brucey doesn't need that anymore. I've been using it for the last 3 years, and it's wonderful. Going to schools and I'll say, nice to see you, and they say, nice to see you, sir. I say, no, just say nice. And they say, just say nice, no, never mind. But in care homes and day centres and hospitals, everybody says nice. Nice to see you, nice. It is lovely to see you. I feel a bit embarrassed having a longer period of time, these wonderful people, and squeezing everything into Pecha Kucha. Looked at what it meant this morning because I wasn't sure. It's amazing to do that, so well done. So I'll try and use my time well. Do you know this chap? It's called Ted McDermott with his son Simon. Ted has Alzheimer's. He's a singer.
Tell me when will you be mine? Tell me quando, quando, quando we can share love divine. Rose of let me wait again. When will you say yes to me? Tell me quando, quando, quando you mean happiness for me. Oh, my darling, tell me when.
As he took his seatbelt off, it might be somebody who's into health and safety. So, but please type up, when you go home tonight, type up, I've forgotten his name, Ted McDermott, and Alzheimer's if you like, and you'll find video clips like that on YouTube. And his son put them on YouTube, and they raised, I think, about 200,000, probably more than that, £200,000 towards the Alzheimer's Society. He said, well, Ted has Alzheimer's, but he can sing. And the son was playing songs in the car and realised that for those moments, if you like, if you use the expression, the Alzheimer's was forgotten, and the songs were remembered, and still is the case. So it'd be wonderful to support Ted through that. And here's another little clip of somebody who, not just singing, but also the guitar has this wonderful gift.
There we go now. So, in dreams of yesterday, I wander back to my little cabin home. I stroll beside an old rock garden, and I saw familiar scenes once more. I heard an organ softly playing as its music came so soft and low. And I heard my mother sweetly singing as all she did so long ago.
Oh, sorry, in time. There's hundreds of examples of beautiful stories like this one. This is a son realising that the mum had not only the capacity to sing and remember beautiful songs, but also play the guitar and continue to do that. Only last night I went on this Twitter feed of at C4AR. I forgot what it means now. Centre for Ageing Research, do apologise in the moment with the people looking at me. And if you look at it, there's a wonderful thing called Bob's Story. There's a lady called, I think she's called Gemma Dixon. Look at Bob's Story and realise there's a chap who, it's called Arts for Dementia, her project. There's a chap who, when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, stopped playing the church organ, stopped playing music, decided he couldn't because he couldn't remember how to do it. And I think this was for about 5 or 6 years. And then this project, he got involved in a music project, said, well, can you play? No, I can't play. And he was, affected, with a certain level of depression about it. And so they took him to a church and there was a musical group, and he watched somebody playing the organ. Watch it for yourself and see what happens. And you know what happens. He sits in front of it, he starts to just put his fingers there, and there's something about muscle memory, but also more than that, a deeper thing than that, where after a little bit he's improvising, and beautiful music is coming out. Well, why the hell did somebody not realise 6 years previously that he could still, and be encouraged and being affirmed, to continue to do as much as he can for as long as he could? And I'm going to say this now, and I'll probably say it at the end as well, that our job as human beings, as well as people involved in supporting of people living with dementia and their carers, is to do as much as we can, for as long as we can, with as much love as we possibly can. So my little talk is on sensory reminiscence, unlocking creativity within each person. I looked at the list and saw lots of speakers who were professors and an MBE, and I thought, oh my goodness, Jimmy O-Donnell there at the bottom of it. Penny says, I'm going to finish with a bang with you. And I said, oh, well, I should have brought some pyrotechnics. So if anyone's, sometimes people fall asleep in care homes where I work, and then this fairly wakes them up. And then we talk about, because my project is about is sensory experiences, and that people remember these at football matches and such. Might even remember that's the Salford Bees. Sometimes people remember the Speedway, but actually made for a different purpose. Do you know why these were made? Somebody usually knows.
Fire warnings. Warnings.
It was from during the Second World War. It says in 3 letters, A-R-P, Air Raid Precautions, 1942. Sometimes when somebody in a care home gives it a good rattle out, and I say, thank you, that's 75 years old, that little device. Don't rattle me when I'm that old. So that's me finishing with a bang pen. So I take people in care settings and anywhere that will have me, and invite me back hopefully, into a journey into the past using old objects, photographs, film clips, music and conversation. But of course, as Pam said earlier, reminiscence at its best isn't just looking at the past. Of course, and the past is precious and our memories are valuable, but at its best, it's also very much looking into the present and the future. The challenge is to make a difference in the present and in the future. Of course, we use our 5 senses to engage with the world. You don't need me to tell you that. Things we can see. And you might have seen an old dolly tub over there. Can you see it? Now, some of you who are younger than me think, what the hell is a dolly tub? And what's the thing in the wooden thing inside it called? A poster, yes. And when I go into schools and I'll say, guess what this is, kids? And they say, is it a barrel for your beer? I say, that's a lovely idea, thank you. Or is it for plants? Because I've seen one in my great-grandma's garden. Yeah, they are used for that, but originally they were used, I hold it up and say, this is your great-grandma's washing machine. And it was all elbow grease and hard work, and wonderfully, when there's a lady called Phyllis who was at one of my groups, and she saw the dolly tub, she starts telling me how to use it. I said, never mind that, you come up and show me, get your hands on it. She starts to do it. She says, when my husband wasn't around, I used to go and have a fag around the back of the wash house. Nothing wrong with that, I suppose. And she said, and then somebody else said, oh, this is reminding me, and I remember coming home from school and doing that, but one day, on the way back from school, she said there was an air raid. During the Second World War, there was an air raid. I didn't know whether to go back to school or go home. I was stuck under a train bridge. And then I thought, my dad had always said, you must remember your identity number. Everyone in the country had an identity number. And she said, and I said, and did you remember it? She says, well, my dad says, if you don't remember it, they'll think you're German. So I remembered it. I said, good. And do you remember it now? I said. She says, oh, that was 70 odd years ago. How would I remember it? Give me a minute. I said, well, it's been 75 years. Another minute will be okay, won't it? So she said, hang on a minute. And she said, FYD 4, whatever it was. She said the numbers and the letters. And she said, I can't believe I remember that. I've not thought about that since the time I took off my little tag and etc. Remember. Now, is there anybody who remembers, is there anybody who's old enough, I don't mind people, if anybody remembers their identity number? Yes, shout it out.
BAZE267.
Anyone else? Yeah. Anyone else? We're all too young. Thank you. You're not a plant. Thank you. When was the last time you thought of it? It might have been recently.
No, but it was our national health number,
So
so
it stayed with you.
we still bracelet as
A
well.
little bracelet, I believe so. It's like,
Always, end of always.
Right.
It's the beginning of all this.
And no, thank you for sharing. And what I find is that in care settings and with and without people with dementia, remembering things like that, service numbers. Anybody remember their service number if they were in the military?
48151.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Right.
Co-op numbers.
Co-op numbers, divvy numbers, yes, such things. Okay. So things we can see, like the dolly. I should reveal this thing. Do you know what's under this? Yeah. Mangle, a ringer, also known by my brothers as James. Just put your finger in there, which you only do once. Things we can hear, like the old rattle. Things we can hear, like music boxes. I've got a vast collection, probably about 1,500 objects from the 20th century. And anyone can do this if you're mad enough, because I only started collecting things about 3 years ago when I realised what I wanted to do with the rest of my working life, at least. And probably into retirement. Things we can see, things we can hear, things we can smell. Carbolic soap, pass it round. Probably very effective cleaning you because it took a layer of skin off. Imagine. Paul was asking if these are mints. They're not. What are they, do you think? They're not mints, you wouldn't want to eat them. Sorry? Mothballs. Now, young people are thinking, mothballs? Mothballs? If you want some fun, do reminiscence. Go into lots of shops and around Blackpool where I live and ask for mothballs. Find the young people looking and some of them thinking, how small must they be? What do you think about that one? Paul, don't eat one of those. Sorry about that. I do reminiscence with some nuns in Southport, I won't tell that one. Things we can taste. I'm just going to say this to you and see if anybody reacts. Manchester tart. I'm not being rude. Just had Manchester tart, I say to my wife when I get home. No, do you remember it from school? Or semolina. Yeah, or tripe. There's another one from the other side of the spectrum. Pig's trotters. Bread and dripping. Arctic roll. Went to a school, primary school, did some reminiscence, talking about my work and encouraging conversation between generations. We'll talk about that at the end. And I saw Arctic roll, I'd not seen it in school, so oh please, let me have some Arctic roll, isn't it beautiful? And there's also, for each person it's different, isn't it? What is it that you love that takes you back with tastes? And also things we touch, and there's things you can come up and touch here later on. And it might be an old tin. I take my biggest object is an old tin bath, and going into a care home asking if anybody wants a bath in the old tin bath. They say it's not Friday. Once a week, have a bath once a week whether you need it or not. Or an old letter, Michael, this is the identity card, etc. And of course they're part of my memories because I am old enough to remember the old tin bath years ago, sharing, coming to Exton near Chorley from South Wales, my dad was a miner, coming up for the first time, seeing a built-in bath. Dad, what's that? He said, that's an enamel bath. I said, what's it made of? He says, enamel. I said, what's the most, most important question, Dad? May I, see how polite I was, may I have a bath on my own? He says, no, you cannot. He says, you'll share with your brother as always. It's part of our story, isn't it? And then bathing in the sink in the early 70s when there was a miners' strike on. And then a while later, Mum still bathed me and said, Mum, I'm 23, can you stop now, please? That's not true, it's a joke. Now, I'm showing this picture, not because I'm going to go through my whole family album, but that's my family in 68, and this is me with my beautiful granddaughter and the little dog, taken just a few months ago. Why am I showing you this? Because I'm on both pictures, and when I go to schools I say, can you see me on that left-hand picture, and say, is that you with the beard? Sorry about it being so far away at the back, but I said, no, that's 1968, I didn't have a beard then. Guess which one's me? And they'll say, is that you with blue? And I said, thank you, that's my sister Maureen. I said, is that you? And then it would eventually go through and realise, this is my family. My dad, Michael, God rest him, in order, Kathleen, Maureen, yes, these are girls, Michael, Joseph, and that's me, the little baby, little blondie. Did you guess?
Yes.
And why am I showing you this? Because there's an awful 49 years between me being a toddler and me being a granddad of a toddler. 49 years. For you, it might be longer or shorter, but I tell you, this is the truth, that you've had millions of sensory experiences in that time. There is music that's the soundtrack to your life. I don't want to be cared for in years to come and somebody says, oh, Jim was around in the 80s, he like Agadoo. No, I don't. I want the music. Why shouldn't I have the music that I want? Why should people presume? And I think Pam was talking about, it's Pam, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. Pam was talking about music and a presumption about what music people will like. And some people will like George Formby or Arthur Askey, and quite frankly, some people won't. But to try and deal with the individual within the collective group is really important. That's what I try and do with my work. I didn't really explain, but at the heart of my project is, I set up my project called Lancashire Memories. I called it Blackpool Memories, and then somebody from Lytham said, do you not do us? And I said, oh yeah, okay. Travel a bit to get out of Lancashire, and then somebody in Penrith says, can you come up here? I said, yes, so Liverpool and various, I'll go anywhere really. So I set this project up, and when I was in a care home in Penrith, and this fella says, do you ken John Peel? With a few nods there, and I said, yeah, he was Radio 1 DJ. Very interesting, really surprised that somebody wants his kind of music, indie music and all that. And they all laughed because we're in Penrith, and John Peel, do you ken John Peel? With his coat so grey, do you ken John Peel? Do you ken John Peel when he's far, far away with his hounds and his... Thank you, it's a little quiet way, thank you very much. And so, oh my goodness, I'll try and do justice to his memory. Or if I sing this, I'll be with you in, I'll be with you too. Change your name. Some of you know it. What about this? Go on. Some of you know. Thank goodness. You're younger than me. We used to travel up on my dad's car, all 7 of us, all the way up to Scotland, and an 8-track stereo playing all the way up. And Dean Martin, a little old wine drinker, me. I was only 7, and it was quite prophetic, really. And then Bing Crosby and Dean Martin and Glenn Miller, and singing those wonderful songs. What are all the songs that are important to you? What's the music? What's the smells? What's the taste? What's the things you touch as well that are part of your life? And will take you on this journey and that will be important to you throughout your life. So I sat with little Eva Rose on my lap there a few months ago. I said, Eva Rose, I'm going to sing you a song my daddy used to sing to me. It goes like this. Okay, man. Row the boat, where will we land? Or in Kincastle on the bonny white strand. Just sing with me now. Row the boat, where will we land? Go on. Or in Kincastle on the bonny white strand. And Eva Rose said, Grandad. I said, yes, darling. She said, you used to sing that to me when I was little. I said, darling, you're 3. You are little. She said, when I was littler, when I was 2. And I thought, who's the reminiscent? This is wonderful. She's reminiscing. And she will hopefully, in years to come, sing that to her children and grandchildren. And that'll be part of the story about Granda that used to sing that beautiful song. We often remember through hearing and singing old songs, and I've just talked through 1 or 2 of them for you. Do you ken John Peel? I've done that, sorry. And of course, one of the things that stimulates and uses the entire brain is music, and we know this and we hear about this. And so music, let the soundtrack of people's lives be part of what they hear as they get older. Has anyone heard of this documentary from America, Alive Inside? If you haven't, type it into YouTube tonight. Alive Inside.
What do you think of music? I've been lost in music. I love it.
Have you ever had music just hit you in a place that immediately brought you to tears? Music has that power.
Music connects people with who they have been, who they are in their lives. Because what happens when you get old is all the things you're familiar with and your identity are all just being peeled away.
We're going to do your medicine now.
Our healthcare system imagines the human to be a very complicated machine. We have medicines that can adjust the diet.
Blood pressure, oh, turn that down. Blood sugar, oh, turn that down.
We haven't done anything to touch the heart and soul of the patient.
One resident that really opened her eyes, she didn't respond. Been on for 2 years. Once we put the iPod on her, she started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. It was amazing.
Music has
to stimulate and reach somebody who otherwise is unreachable.
You can't get away from me if I'm in this place.
Takes me back to my school days. Oh God, that's beautiful.
Does it make you happy to sing for us?
Yeah.
Every human being needs stimulation from the outside, from little babies to old people.
American culture is wrong. There is actually life beyond adulthood. There's the opportunity to live and grow and become elders. The aging that we experience holds in very important learnings and lessons. There is no pill that does that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so the tears of joy.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to grow wings.
I was trying.
So that's Alive Inside. Look it up, and it's beautiful. It's about an hour, and that's a little snippet of it. Trying to, through all that I do, trying to what I call unlocking a room in the palace of memories of the mind and heart. I won't say any more because of time, but I'll just share this with a lady from my parish who's 93 and a great-great-grandmother.
Till I was 5, I used to say a poem, and I used to say, they put me in a concert, and I got a prize for that when I was about 5.
What was the poem?
It was called Picking Hill.
How does it go?
As I was going up Picking Hill was dirty. There I met a pretty miss, and she dropped me a curtsy. Little Miss Pretty Miss, blessings light upon you. If I had half a crown a day, I'd spend it all upon you.
So I do make these videos of people, and then I share them going to care settings, and the thing is that stimulates other people. Think it's okay to say a poem, and people will remember poems that they learned, because poems as well as music from years ago will come to the surface. Does anyone know this chap, footballer for Burnley and England? It's called Ray Pointer. God rest him, he died last year, but not before I encountered him. This is him in the blue jumper in a care home. And I'd heard he played football for England and also for Burnley, and he won the championship, you know, the proper top flight. And I found a video clip from a 1970s documentary. You have to research a bit sometimes, don't you? Take the time. And it was showing him scoring a goal. I want you to, and Ray had dementia. I want you to watch his reaction, which he can't fully articulate, but watch his reaction when he sees himself.
Ray Pointer, now our coach at Derby, is the centre forward. A brave, instinctive scorer, and also played frequent.
I say to kids in the school, I said, what's happening there? And they're very intuitive, they'll say, he's back on the pitch scoring the goal. I said, he is. Is he happy? You bet your life he's happy. This is a wonderful thing for him to see. This is one of the first objects I bought. It was a little music box, and I went to I've got a little bit of Dolly Blue for those who remember it, and so you see that. Those who don't, ask somebody who does. First session I ever did in a day centre in Blackpool, and I said, does anybody know this tune? There that you whispered. So, this was with a group of people, it was a group of people with dementia, and the lady who was perhaps further along her journey than the rest of them struggled to complete a sentence. She really wanted to contribute and she couldn't. It was frustrating for her and for the group. Started to sing it. Nobody else could sing it. Verse, chorus, verse, chorus. I had to rewind it. And at the end of it, I said, what was that? Betty Rose says, that was Lily Marlene. And you said about a round of applause. When was the last time we gave her a round of applause like she's not heard before? When was the last time? Why shouldn't she have a round of applause? What is the Betty thing that can be celebrated? Everybody has something that they can do and do well. And to find that thing, to make the connection with that heart and with the spirit of the person, and we talked about touching the spirit, you said before, Gary. Sorry I'm going a little bit over time, but I'll try and speed it up. Beautiful granddaughter's grown up a little bit since, and what's she doing? Telling the time with a dandelion clock. And I do make these little videos and share them, then go into the kettle. People say, oh, that's what she's doing. And I'll say, accurate within 24 hours.
You can blow it. Is it done?
She's not bothered, she's going to look for another one. And I say to people, it's not just in care homes, but in other places and wherever I go, you know, as people get older, that, you know, help dandelions in their great work of propagation. And don't worry about the fact that they're weeds. They're not weeds, they're flowers, aren't they? And they've created themselves perfectly to, because every child in the country wants to help them to spread the seeds everywhere. Why not? Unless you're a gardener. And I say to people, look, when you go out, if you see one of those dandelions, pick it up and blow it. Remember that. And of course, if you put a little buttercup under your chin, it guarantees 100% to tell you if you like butter if it's a sunny day. Or daisy chains, you know, these wonderful things that we can do, and the gardens. I think daisies are really important in gardens for that reason.
The Arts in the House program is a collection of forms of expressing yourself. Dance, art, music, singing, humour.
All the bits of culture that people in nursing homes miss out on. This is not about the end of the road, this is about living life to the fullest.
It's helping my brain to come back.
I had to come to aged care to find out I was talented.
I had to come to aged care in Australia to find out I was talented. That's called Artists in the House program. If you type that in a little search, you'll find it. And this is a lady called Lola.
When Nola first came here, she was unsettled and quite depressed, and definitely didn't want to be here. And think of the music with your eyes closed. Imagine it, and imagine you're conducting. Nola, what did you see?
Well, I can't believe that because I saw people trying to dance.
Right. This time, we're actually going to draw some music. And let the music guide you. Don't just scribble.
I have never known Mum to pick up a paintbrush. She's never done anything like that before in her life.
She started off and the results were quite profound.
She took the rest of life from painting. Nobody could get over it.
Those are your paintings.
No. In Mal's time, she'll deny that it's even her painting. But when she's creating this incredible artwork, she's in a completely different world.
We found a number of patients were starting exhibiting new skills they didn't have. Again, if we look at the analogy of the brain as an orchestra, you have this loss of control from the conductor. Then the brain regions that were suppressed, then you have a bit more space.
The brain regions that were suppressed now have a bit more space, he says, which is an interesting thought, isn't it? That there's probably an artist in all of us, isn't there, and a musician in all of us if we had the right kind of encouragement sometime, and maybe perhaps in later life finding that hidden talent would be a beautiful thing. I said to you at the start, I said my job, I see my mission. By the way, I did lots of different things before I was a teacher, and I packed in my teaching job, took a leap of faith to set this project up. It's actually my business. I wanted it to be a social enterprise, but it was too challenging to do that, and I thought, as fellas said, set it up as a business first. So I'm kind of relying on people paying me to do what I do. And it's really difficult because I think people sometimes don't fully value what is valuable. And that means money actually sometimes, but it does, doesn't it? It's my bread and butter for other people. And the project like the Bay, Dementia and these hubs trying to do it without funding, it's ridiculous. So I do talks on the power of reminiscence. I do reminiscence sessions in any care homes, care setting. And it's about that sensory experience, things people can see and smell and hear and touch, and we really talk about taste because I don't want to kill anybody by cooking something. And so, as I said, my job is to do, and I encourage you to do as much as you can for as long as you can with as much love as you can. And I'll finish with this little clip. Sorry, it's really loud, that isn't it? Up here. She said she's putting the starfish back. There's been a storm. They're all washed up, and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm putting the starfish back in the water." Why are you doing that? Because if I don't, they'll not survive. They'll not thrive. And he says, "But there's thousands of them. You couldn't possibly make a difference." She picks one up, throws it in. It made a difference to that one. And so every single person. Because they're human, because of love, and sometimes, like for me, I train to be a priest, actually, so I do things also out of religion. I don't wear it on my sleeve, but do it from a religious motive, because I believe in God's love for everyone. I was trained to be a priest and then went out for a night out in Blackpool. That when I met my wife. At the end of my celibacy, not that night, I mean to say, that was the end of that trip. And then I taught for 10 years and then decided to do this. Finally, sorry Paul, I know you need to, Trevor. Finally that part of my project is called Sharing Precious Memories, and I go to schools and also parishes and anybody who will listen. I think that there's a vast need for two things: an end to social isolation, which is a curse of the 21st century, and also for social integration and intergenerational conversations. Children are the greatest untapped source of dementia care, and if they are encouraged, and I go in I encourage them to talk about my work and the power of reminiscence and explain to them what's possible, and I give them questions, say, go and spend time with an older relative, find out the answer to these 15 questions. And then they tell me a month later what they've done, and it's beautiful, and the conversations, and it's positive, and it's past, celebrating the past, in the present, and produce something valuable for the future. I did it with my dear dad. I wish I got 6 pages with my dad 13 years ago. I wish I'd got 600, because his story is vital, it's valuable. It's part of who I am for these kids to know. And my idea is to change the whole world with everyone spending time with relatives, finding out their valuable life stories, and that's called Sharing Precious Memories. Thanks very much.